Here's a wacky stat. Patrick Mahomes has scored only 0.6 more fantasy points than Russell Wilson.
I've got a wacky stat for that one as well.
Let's hear
Rashee
it.
Rice and Kadarius Toney rank first and second in drop rate.
Yeah, that's not helping. It's not helping Rashee Rice. It's a good thing to bring up because why isn't he playing more? He's so many drops.
No, that might be it, but I legitimately think, like Matt Nagy's talked publicly about it a couple times in the last week and a half, that they have this theory that they've got 7 wide receivers that all do different things well, and they're just going to play the guys in these certain situations, and nobody's a full-time player.
Yeah. Well, Pacheco is pretty much a full-time player, right? He's got a nice little role. And here's stat of the game. The Broncos allow the most fantasy points to running backs, 6.13 yards per carry to running backs. They allow the 4th most receiving yards per game to running backs, and they've seen the most running back carries per game in the NFL. When I looked at your rankings, and I know looking at them on Tuesday isn't always the best idea, but I think Pacheco was something like RB 18 or something like that. I thought maybe this would be a week where he could sneak into the top 12. How do you guys feel about Pacheco?
I mean, he's top 15 for me. I don't know who's low on him.
I've got him 12th.
Okay.
12th in the projections. I don't know if those get updated quicker than the rankings.
That's probably my bad. I see he's top 13 for everybody right now. Okay. No, I was thinking of somebody else. Who was I thinking of? I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, I apologize. Pretty much a must-start guy, right?
Yes.
It's actually a very good week for the top end running backs, and the reason I tell you that is because when I have to do start sit, I look at the start percentages, and I try to avoid guys basically that are started in 80% of leagues or more. And there's 15 to maybe 18 running backs that are 90% started. It's very difficult.
Okay, so Pacheco or Kyren Williams this week?
Pacheco.
Yeah, they're both Kyren Williams top 12 as well.
Yeah, they're both pretty good this week. All right, just start Pacheco. We'll deal with it later in the week, okay? Or I guess we can't really do that. Pacheco or KJ Osborne?
That's not close.
All right, Pacheco or
I don't think people should be sitting the only way you're sitting Pacheco is if you have 2 top 12 running backs. We're not sitting him for the number 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, I think anytime you have a guy who was drafted kind of late and he's a must start this week, I feel like that's when people do have questions. But all right, we like Pacheco. That's the bottom line. Mahomes is a must start, but man, it would be nice for him to, go crazy here.
Oh, wow. Richardson can miss up to 8 weeks.
Oh, crap. Okay, back to this game. You're not giving any thought to sitting Patrick Mahomes, are you?
No.
He's QB2.
Any Chiefs wide receivers?
Desperate play, I'd play Rashee Rice, but that's it.
Yeah.
Start Kelsey if he plays. If Kelsey doesn't play, any interest in Noah Gray? Gray had 5 targets in week 1, 3 for 31 on 5 targets.
Do it, Jamie.
Noah, thank you.
I thought you were going to say Noah way. All right, so the Broncos are probably a little bit more difficult. Starter sit Russell Wilson this week.
I would try to sit him if you can.
I've got him as a low-end top 12 guy.
Okay, yeah.
I'm starting him for the most part.
It's bothering me, and I have him on a couple of teams. It's bothering me.
Well, it has been 2 weeks, I think it happened because he ran for 40 yards. And 1 week, as we often talk about, there was the Hail Mary. But he is also averaging his 2nd most rushing yards since 2017.
He's definitely been good. It's hard to completely get away from him. But I do think that you look at while the Chiefs the last 2 weeks have allowed their two highest fantasy point totals to opposing quarterbacks. Both of those were on the road. In their 2 home games this season, now take it for what it's worth, because Justin Fields was struggling at the time and Jared Goff is always bad on the road. They've held those 2 guys to under 16 fantasy points. Now, I would say if you're looking at the broader picture, You could probably say Russell Wilson's performance this year, along with what Justin Fields for the entirety of the season and Jared Goff the entirety of the season, all around the same type of fantasy production. So I think this is going to be. I really feel like at some point this is, if it hasn't already, this Broncos team is going to completely unravel, and it might unravel in a primetime game in Arrowhead Stadium. Now Russell Wilson in 2 games last year, one with Nathaniel Hackett, one without, did have 2 good fantasy games against the Chiefs, but I feel like this Chiefs defense is better. And so going into Arrowhead, short week, with how everything is going, like Russell Wilson's using baseball analogies at this point to try and talk his way out of what's happening right now. He said, if you go 1 for 4, you hope to go 2 for 5 and just swing away, or something to that degree. Sean Payton's talking about how he's not getting animated at Russell Wilson on the sideline. They're talking about plays. Well, clearly getting animated at Russell Wilson on the sideline.
Right.
So this just feels like everything's about to really, really implode unless they surprise all of us and beat the Broncos. Beat the Chiefs, excuse me.
They've beat the Broncos many times this year.
They have beat the Broncos many times this year. Yeah. So I'm nervous about Russell Wilson. So he's outside my top 12. He's just barely in. I think I have him 16th.
Well, okay, so I'll try to do this math here, right? So if you took Russell Wilson's 4th quarter yards,
you're right. Okay. This has got to be the ultimate.
Well, no, this is why he keeps finding fantasy production when it looks like he's having horrible games. He's thrown his if you took his 4th quarter production and and you made that for like times 4 for a full game for like all 4 quarters and multiplied by 17, he'd be on pace for 6,000 passing yards. That's how prolific he's been in the 4th quarter.
So he's been clutch.
Yeah, sure. All right. So Wilson or Minshew?
Wilson for me.
I would go Minshew.
Wilson or Stroud against the Saints with Marcus Maybach?
Wilson for sure.
I'd go Wilson there.
Wilson or Geno Smith at the Bengals?
I like Geno better because I think that's going to be a big-time shootout between the Seahawks and the Bengals.
I like Wilson better. I'm a little scared of Geno.
Denver running backs, any interest in any of them?
If they all 3 play, definitely not. If Javonte is out, I think Jaleel McLaughlin's still a low-end starter. Number 2 running back.
Yep.
Yeah, so I told you that the Broncos have seen the most running back carries in the NFL. The Chiefs have seen the 4th fewest per game. And it's kind of weird because it's not like this year they're blowing teams out. So, but teams are just not running on the Chiefs, except for the Lions in week 1. They had 28 carries. No team has had more than 15 carries combined for a full team against the Chiefs in the last 4 games.
So maybe the right answer of the Broncos running backs, if they all play, like if you have to start one of them, it might be Samaje Perine, because he has been their best running back in the passing game. I think he's probably their best in pass protection. If they're going to be down 3 scores in the second half, which they probably are, it might just be a bunch of Samaje Perine.
If they all play, you're saying.
Right. Well, I mean, I've got McLaughlin as a low end number 2 and Perine as a fine flex right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the Denver wide receivers?
It's hard to trust them. I mean, it feels like, maybe Russ is starting to lean on Judy a little bit more. Now, I don't know how much of that was, Sutton lined up against Sauce Gardner quite a bit, and, Russ not wanting to take that challenge. So at best, they're number 3 receivers. So if you want to look at Sutton's body of work and say, okay, he's still the best one, I think Judy getting healthier is a big part of that. So I would lean toward Judy if I had to pick one of the 2, but I would prefer to sit both of them.
86% snap share for Judy last week was a season high. I'm Judy over Sutton, but they're both number 3 wide receivers.
KJ Osborne or a Denver guy?
I'll take the guy facing the Bears.
I've got Judy, Sutton, Osborne.
Garrett Wilson against the Eagles or Jerry Judy?
Wilson.
Okay. Jaleel McLaughlin if Javonte's out or Jerry Judy?
McLaughlin.
Yep. In all formats.
I want to tell you all about a fantasy mistake I made. Don't do this. Last week, I was doing my waiver claims, and I don't know why. I didn't want anybody, I guess. And I put in a claim for a kicker, and I got him. And someone dropped Jerry Judy, and I couldn't get Jerry Judy because I had to go to the back of the line in the waiver wire.
Great call. I've been doing the same thing. I've been waiting on kickers. Exactly.
Yeah, like especially during the bye weeks, like sometimes crazy drops happen.
Yep.
So don't waste your waiver priority on a player you don't need, just in case.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that because I realized this. Obviously, a long time ago, but like came to mind because of a different transaction. So in one league that I'm in, this was like week 3 or so when Kamara was coming back. Somebody dropped Kendre Miller, and he has keeper value, and somebody else, I don't understand why, dropped Zach Charbonnet, and so I had picked up Miller, and then I could have had Charbonnet because I think I was first on waivers, and so even though I want to keep Miller, I would prefer to have Charbonnet for the season. So, whenever those waivers kick back and you can't make those moves, it's frustrating.
Yeah. And I obviously, I knew that. I don't know why. It was just laziness on my part. I should have just waited, but I was like, just get it out of the way. That was just dumb.